How to Train Your Dragon is my favorite movie ever made. Hi, it's me, reporting pre-recorded from my closet. I'm here to shill one of my favorite childhood movies that I find still holds up today. Before I jump into this, huge bias warning. I grew up with this movie and the sequel. I watched the show that was on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, I don't remember. I owned the second movie on my Xbox, like back when Microsoft Movies and TV was still a thing. I am the least objective person possible to talk about this movie, but How to Train Your Dragon is so good, I feel like I can't do my channel justice without talking about it. I watched it again for the first time in a while, and it made me realize how much of a banger this movie is, because if you ask me, this is a perfect movie, flaws and all. And it might not be your favorite, but hopefully after watching this video, you'll at least get why it's mine. So off rip, this movie is 13 years old, but you can barely tell. Aside from a few specific shots that look strangely bad, this movie holds up really well. It's certainly not going toe-to-toe with current animation powerhouses like Spider-Verse, but this movie's style and overall direction are still great. It helps that the cinematography is peak for some reason. I'm not sure why shots like these surprise me in a movie about Vikings, but the wide angles really demonstrate the massive scale of this world, and there are plenty of other shots that are equally creative and fun. This movie is also the peak of DreamWorks' character design. First off, I love that Stoic is just a fucking brick. He's like a Roblox avatar, and his daunting size and figure suits him not only as a chief, but also as an obstacle for our main character. I like that when he tries to talk to Hiccup later in the movie, his size gets him bumping into stuff, just visually representing how awkward he feels finally trying to relate to his son. But I'll go into story stuff later. The rest of the Vikings being this cuboid is equally funny. Gobber stands out, obviously, and all the kids have unique designs, although I will admit Hiccup is sort of unremarkable, but I think that's the point. I also like how each kid's design and personality is reflected in the dragon they end up riding. Like putting fish legs on a Gronkle is peak comedy.
I'm okay! Less okay!
And last but not least, the peak of animated character design, Toothless. God, I love Toothless. He's like a dog and a cat had a baby with a dragon, but he sleeps like a bat. And he sets the ground on fire before he sleeps. Like, he's just so animated and expressive, and I love that he uses his ears to slap Hiccup, and his tongue flapping around like a dog is equally hilarious. And his little toothless grin, come on, man, you're telling me you don't want to be friends with this guy? Like, get real. Toothless is also a badass. His first scene is just him systematically picking apart the Vikings' defenses. Like, I love how easily he just tosses dudes around in the ring, using every part of his body to just fling grown-ass men. The sound design for him is insane, too. Like, the building screech that he has is like a dive bomber, and his fireballs are more like lasers. It's all so well done and unique, both in and out of the universe. Toothless' theme is also equally striking, and really all the music in this movie is iconic. Test Drive is probably my favorite piece of film music ever. Astrid's theme is angelic, and it's really fun to watch, or listen to, I guess, similar motifs be used in different situations, with the composer Glenn Powell changing tones to reflect the mood. I'll leave the music at that for now. I'd rather touch on it as it comes up because I think it's more relevant discussed in the scene that it's actually used in. Lastly, the voice acting in this movie is really solid. Gerard Butler is great as Stoic. Gobber's voice actor is hilarious, and Jay Baruchel is actually doing pretty good as Hiccup, with some great comedic timing.
We're dead.
The supporting cast is decent as well. America Ferrera is doing great as Astrid. Jonah Hill is actually pretty funny in this. Mick Loveman is great as Fishlegs, and even TJ Miller isn't that offensive in this movie. I think because he's got an equally grating character to bounce off of. But with all that preamble out of the way, let's talk plot. How to Train Your Dragon opens with narration from Hiccup, which normally I would hate, but the way it's spliced with on-screen dialogue and action makes it actually pretty fun, and it's an effective vehicle to introduce us to this new setting and how the society here functions. Hiccup plainly states that killing a dragon is like a rite of passage, and his inability to do so has sort of made him a social outcast, mocked by his peers stuck in Gobber's shop.
Stay put. There.
His continual screw-ups place enormous stress on Stoic, not just as his dad, but as the chief of the village. Stoic goes on to tell Gobber that he always knew what he had to be, and Hiccup isn't like that. It's Stoic's inability to reason with and relate to his son that drives the central conflict of the movie, because How to Train Your Dragon doesn't really have an antagonist. I'm not counting this thing. It shows up for the first time like an hour in, and is more of a device to get Hiccup and Stoic to reconcile than anything. Anyway, Hiccup downs a Night Fury, obviously nobody believes him, and after venting to Gobber, sick shot by the way, he runs off to find the dragon. I like this little detail of Hiccup making a map because I feel like it's something only he would do. Every other Viking in this village would just run off and try and find the dragon based on pure instinct. But Hiccup isn't like that. He's analytical and creative, so he makes a map. Of course, he's about to give up when he stumbles across Toothless, seemingly incapacitated in his snare. I fucking love this scene. Toothless' theme is amazing. It sounds so foreign to everything else because Toothless really is foreign to everything else. I love how his wingtip obscures him opening his eye, and I love that Hiccup is forcing himself to go through with this. He's trying to hype himself up, repeating to himself the rhetoric that's been thrown at him for years, that he's a Viking, that this is what Vikings do, but he just can't do it. Toothless had given up. He had a Night Fury dead to rights, but instead of feeling jubilant, he feels guilty. And instead of just running away, Hiccup actually mans up and faces his guilt and decides to quickly free Toothless, who immediately gets up and, he's not really happy about what happened. But man, that shit's badass. The music is imposing, and Toothless is equally so. He runs off, and Hiccup heads home empty-handed, immediately blindsided by Stoic, who tells him he gets to start dragon training. Hiccup, after his encounter with Toothless, obviously doesn't want to, but Stoic doesn't listen, repeating again what Hiccup has been told his entire life.
You walk like us. You talk like us. You think like us.
Hiccup obviously embarrasses himself at dragon training, but it's here where the movie shows us its greatest strength. The juxtaposition between what Viking society tells him and what Hiccup learns with Toothless is the best part of this movie, and this is the first and most striking example of it. Gobber insists a dragon will always go for the kill, but Toothless didn't, and it leads Hiccup back to Toothless, where he gets a sketch of the dragon, and also realizes Toothless is missing a rear wing, rendering Toothless unable to fly. I really like the following scene where Hiccup is treated as an outsider, but instead of whining about it, he just accepts it and sits by himself because he's used to it. This guy has been on the outside looking in his entire life. Hiccup reading the dragon manual is fun because it once again reinforces that Vikings just look at dragons as like video game enemies, a threat that needs to be dispatched.
Extremely dangerous, kill on sight, kill on sight.
Night Fury page being empty is badass, and I like that Hiccup the next day just ignores the training battle to quiz Gobber about Night Furies.
Is there like another book or a sequel, maybe a little Night Fury pamphlet?
After screwing up again, Hiccup heads off to find Toothless with a fish as a bargaining tool. These two are the emotional core of this movie, and if their relationship wasn't endearing and generally fun to watch, this movie would not work on any level. Luckily, these two are awesome together, and this scene is case in point. Toothless flipping between reptilian eyes, suspicious of Hiccup since he has a weapon, and then like puppy eyes once he throws it away is such a fun way to denote his emotional state. Toothless making Hiccup take a bite out of the fish head is hilarious. Like, the way he just fucking plops down. We get our first look at his goofy little smile, and I just love how whimsical this music is. It's just so fun. Hiccup makes an attempt to touch Toothless, who understandably wants none of that shit. Hiccup following Toothless around to look at his tail is perfect. It's just emblematic of his curiosity. I just love the characterization in these scenes. It isn't until Toothless sees Hiccup drawing him that he starts to warm up to him, trying his own hand at drawing, appropriately with a whole-ass tree, not a stick. And obviously he just scribbles, but his enthusiasm while doing so is infectious, and Hiccup stepping between the lines further endears the two to each other. The music is so good here. There's such a magical, childlike whimsy present in these scenes that I really don't know how to describe, but it just makes me happy, man. Hiccup makes it outside the scribbles, the music pausing as he nearly bumps into Toothless, and this is where you fall in love with these two. Hiccup once again tries to touch Toothless, but realizes he can't make that leap on his own, and instead extends his hand, looking away, hoping Toothless will bridge the gap and trust him. Angelic music playing over the scene. Toothless hesitates for a split second, and then embraces Hiccup. How can you not love this movie, man? Seriously, I cannot get over how fun this shit is. Next, we get a scene of Gobber and the gang talking, and in the midst of great delivery by Jonah Hill, Gobber says that a down dragon is a dead dragon, leading Hiccup to create a prosthetic tail flap for Toothless. I love this because Hiccup is just a sponge. He combines the knowledge he gets from the Vikings and his knowledge from hanging out with Toothless to help Toothless and also get a leg up in the arena, and it's just fun to watch. It's paced so well, and you can see Toothless and Hiccup gradually putting more trust in each other in these scenes. I love how Toothless looks when he realizes what Hiccup is doing. I love how Hiccup has to chase him around to put the saddle on. It's just so goofy. Like, this movie is just such a vibe, dude. Astrid becomes rightfully suspicious as Hiccup becomes a celebrity for his exploits in the ring, but Hiccup doesn't really care about the fame. He just kind of wants to go hang out with Toothless. Their first fight together is so freaking cool, dude. The camera work is selling the wonder of soaring among the clouds, and the music is so fucking good. Hiccup and Toothless get a little carried away, and Hiccup loses his cheat sheet way up in the sky, falling off of Toothless, who can't fly without him. The two plummet back to Earth, and I just love how the music sounds like it's falling with them. Hiccup finally gets back on, both of them desperately attempting to stop their free fall, and both of their themes are clashing depending on who is taking control. Hiccup can't get a good look at his cheat sheet, and with a field of rocks fast approaching, he just says fuck it. Hiccup has never been confident in anything before. He's unsure of himself as a Viking, as a son, as an apprentice, but in this moment, he puts his trust in Toothless, and Toothless puts his trust in Hiccup, finally giving each other the confidence to truly work together. Hiccup lets his cheat sheet go, flies on instinct, the music crescendoing in an epic chorus as Hiccup and Toothless' themes merge, and the two deftly navigate the rock field. This is my favorite scene in a movie ever. Maybe Leap of Faith takes it, but point is, it's so euphoric I can barely put it into words. These two finally trusting each other, becoming one like this is awesome, and it's a trial by fire befitting a hero's journey like this. The rest of this movie could be hot ass, and I wouldn't care. This scene is that good. Luckily, the rest of the movie isn't hot ass. After this, we see Hiccup get chosen to kill the dragon at the end of dragon training, his dad and the whole village cheering him on, along with one of the funniest editing choices in the movie.
I am so leaving. We're leaving.
Astrid tracks him down. Hiccup narrowly avoids having Toothless and Astrid beef. I mean, I guess they still do.
Toothless? Astrid.
In an attempt to persuade Astrid, Hiccup takes her on a ride with Toothless, and holy shit, this scene is magical. Once again, you're telling me this movie isn't gas? Look at this shit. It's here we get introduced to Godzilla, but like I said, I don't really care about this thing. Hiccup is left trying to come up with a plan to avoid killing the dragon, and his plan is to throw aside his entire heritage in front of his dad and his whole village. Nice one, dumbass. It's tragic too because it would have worked, but Stoic's stubborn disposition to adhere to principle halts Hiccup's demonstration, putting him in mortal danger, which alerts Toothless, who scrambles to save his friend so hard he wall runs off a tree. Get you a homie like Toothless. Stoic attempts to save Hiccup and Astrid, but can't get to Hiccup before the dragon does, leading Toothless to make a sick entrance and save Hiccup before being restrained after he nearly point-blank murders Stoic. Stoic then questions Hiccup, abhorred that his own son had been lying to him, and in trying to defend himself, Hiccup accidentally divulges that he's been to the nest and that only a dragon can find it, which Stoic takes to mean he can use Toothless as a compass. It's heartbreaking to see Hiccup desperately try to reason with Stoic here, not only for Toothless's life, but Stoic's as well, since it's pretty obvious the Vikings can't take on the big lad.
It's like nothing you've ever seen.
Stoic disowns Hiccup, and I like the shot after he slams the door where he staggers for a second, but then, as he has for the whole movie, puts his duty to his village ahead of his duties as a father, resolute in his will to do right by his people. Hiccup despondently looks on as Toothless is left chained to Stoic's ship, headed for the nest. Sick shot, by the way. I really like Astrid here. She's totally come around on Hiccup, and she realizes that his genius is the only thing that can save them here. But Hiccup doesn't know that. She basically tells Hiccup how much he sucks, questions him on why he couldn't kill or wouldn't kill Toothless.
Okay, whatever. I wouldn't.
But then she says,
First to ride one, though.
which helps Hiccup realize that his society's definition of his ability doesn't truly define him, and that what makes him unique is what makes him capable. Hiccup helps his classmates learn to ride their own dragons, and I gotta say, I don't really hate the side characters in this movie. I sort of touched on it, but they're all distinct enough to be funny in their own ways, and they don't overstay their welcome like they do in the sequels. Anyway, the Vikings bite off more than they can chew, Stoic and Gobber have a bro moment,
Then I can double that time.
and are saved at the last minute by Hiccup and the gang. I love Stoic's reaction here. Like, I'm gonna be honest, that is exactly how I would react. Hiccup attempts to free Toothless, but the ship is destroyed, sinking Toothless to the ocean floor. I really like this scene because Hiccup would rather drown than leave Toothless, another way the movie shows us how much they care for each other, without outright saying it. You know how in the Star Wars prequels, Obi-Wan and Anakin talk about these adventures they've had and how great of friends they are, but we never really see it? I mean, we see it in the Clone Wars, but that doesn't count. This is how you demonstrate that kind of bond without any ham-fisted dialogue. Stoic saves the day, freeing Toothless, and side note, I love when Toothless looks at him here like, man, I don't want to save your ass, but I guess I have to. Hiccup and Toothless gear up to fight the Monster Hunter boss, and Stoic finally realizes that his duty to his village and his duty as a father don't have to conflict with each other, that Hiccup can be a positive for his people. He apologizes and admits that he's proud of his son, which is an apology Hiccup is happy to accept. Hiccup and Toothless absolutely dismantle the big lad in a badass scene where you can see how strong they are together. Toothless's prosthetic tail gets burned off, and the two struggle to get out of the way of the falling beast. Hiccup gets knocked off, but Toothless doesn't hesitate to go after him. Look at this shot, man. Like, holy shit. Stoic then frantically searches for Hiccup, finding Toothless motionless, his saddle gone, and the wires of his prosthetic bent and charred. Stoic apologizes to Toothless, realizing that if he had trusted his son sooner, he might still be alive. But Hiccup is alive. Toothless only gives up Hiccup once he realizes Stoic means well, and once he knows Stoic cares for Hiccup like he does. Everyone's happy, Hiccup's alive,
Well, you know, most of them.
and he wakes up in his house with Toothless acting like an overgrown house cat, and we get this great shot of them walking to the door, Toothless missing a piece of his tail, and Hiccup missing a leg, something that would normally be a crippling weakness, but together their weaknesses become a strength. Hiccup walks outside, sees dragons, and understandably thinks he's dead.
I knew it. I'm dead.
He's met and congratulated by Stoic in the village, and the movie ends on another monologue from Hiccup, which against all odds I also like. If you ask me, How to Train Your Dragon is a perfect movie. Its pacing is impeccable, it has amazing characters, great relationships, badass action, unforgettable music, and a touching narrative. There's a magic present in this movie that touches me every time I watch it, and I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to explain how much this movie and these characters mean to me. Like I said at the beginning, it might not be your favorite, but hopefully you'll be able to understand why it's mine, because if you ask me, it doesn't get any better than this.